If you are a Christian woman over the age of 40 and you're starting to think that maybe it's not possible for you to get pregnant naturally, or maybe it's not in God's plan for you, this episode is for you. You need to listen to every single minute because Susan and I share the truth, the science behind getting pregnant in your 40s, and the faith-filled attitude that can take you further than any IVF procedure. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Fruitful Fertility Co. podcast, your holistic, faith-filled, no-fluff guide to getting pregnant naturally. I'm your host and TTC BFF, Tori Black, here to pull you out of your weariness and cheer you into God's calling to be a mother, all while giving you the simple, bite-sized steps to improve your fertility. Let's trade stress and overwhelm for hope, because girl, you look fertile to me. Okay, guys, we have what I would call an episode in the waiting, in the making, all the good stuff, because I have been so excited to record this. Today, I am with Susan Gladstein. She is a holistic health practitioner and a functional nutrition specialist from the podcast Faith Over Pharma. And if you don't know me, I'm Tori Black. I'm a registered nurse and HTMA professional, and me and Susan are both here today because we truly believe that every woman is capable of getting pregnant naturally, and that includes those of you over the age of 40. That is our topic today, the thing we are going to drive home. If you are over the age of 40, lean in, quit multitasking, and stay with us right here because we're going to give you exactly what you need to hear. And I wanted to start today's conversation by just letting Susan share her story. So Susan, tell us a little bit about getting pregnant in your 40s because you know better than anybody.
Right. And it's one of those things where so much of society has told us, oh, your fertility just falls off a cliff after 35. So when I was 38, my husband had a vasectomy reversal, and I thought we'd get pregnant right away, and it didn't really go that way. And of course, it was very much that pressure of, well, I'm inching towards 40. It's all going to fall apart. We just spent a lot of money on having this reversal. And what are we going to do now? And it's kind of what actually led me into the work that I'm doing now, because I just really want to foot stomp that is not at all the case. There's so much that I learned and things that were very much overlooked as far as my health goes. So of course his numbers came back after the reversal is amazing and wonderful. And so then I started thinking that the problem was me. And so I had a baby at 40 in 2020. And then fast forward, I had another one at almost 45. And so I would say now, so I turned 46 this summer. And I feel like now, just knowing what I know about my body and really taking care of it, I feel like I could be fertile for a really long time. So I told my husband, like, are you prepared to like be on People magazine for like the world's oldest like couple conceiving naturally? And he was like, challenge accepted. So
Yes.
I am definitely excited about our conversation today, but more importantly, that it is possible. And I definitely feel like being more in tune with my body and having worked on the foundations over the last 10 plus years has really served me well. And I see that a lot in women where it's like you just want a shortcut to the good part, where it's like you get pregnant. But I will say that all of the stuff that I know that you talk about, that I talk about, all that foundational stuff, the things that are probably missing, that are missed by most doctors, are the things that like have helped me even postpartum. Because people tell me all the time, like, oh, I can never start over. And I had a lady at the dentist tell me the other day, like, well, you look like you're like really, together. I know that women give birth later on, but like you don't look worn out at all. And I was like, well, there is a lot to be said about, longevity. Fertility is really just a byproduct of good health. And so, yeah, I'm like, challenge accepted. I'm going to be running and wearing out my grandkids and future kids well into
Yes.
my, 90s and beyond. So,
Yes. I always say that fertility is a reflection of your foundational health. So not your chronological age, but your foundational health. So I love that. So for those of you who might have missed that, Susan said she got pregnant at 40 and 45. So this is not, she didn't even start till you said 38, right? Your husband got his reversal when you were 38. Is that what you
correct.
said?
Yeah. And I have two older kids that I had in my 20s and a prior relationship. My husband and I were married like 9 years before we
Mhm.
decided to start all over. And
Yeah.
so we have a 1 year old and then up to 30.
Yeah. So you have two in your 20s and two in your 40s. So it is fair to say you've had just as many children in your 40s as you did in your 20s.
Exactly. And honestly, it was way better
Mhm.
in my 40s. So when I was 40, went to the doctor. They kind of gave me a hard time. And it was also during COVID. So that was a weird time as it was. But I wholeheartedly expected to get oh, you're 40, there's all these issues.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went in the second time, much older, I really thought like I was going to get more of that and even worse. And the doctor that I saw was a different doctor. And he was like, honestly, you're a lot healthier than a lot of my 20-year-olds. I'm not worried about it. But I
Mm-hmm.
will say that there was a lot of things that they tried to diagnose me with simply because of my age that was really frustrating to me, and ultimately why I came up with the Faith Over Pharma podcast, because it's like we don't need to buy into fear or all of these myths that we're going to
Mm-hmm.
dive into today, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, it's one of those things where like, nope, you can get pregnant.
Mm-hmm. And I tell people will say, like, what do you do differently for your women and your older women versus your younger women? Like, I don't do anything different. I literally don't do anything because one, I'm looking at who they are as a person and their lifestyle, and I will do that whether you're 20 or you're 40. But also, like we said before, it's about your foundational health. It's not about your age. So I will treat you according to your foundational health the way I would treat someone who is 20.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I love that. Faith Over Pharma is such a good name. Like such a good podcast name. I love that so much.
It offends quite a few people, just
Does it?
saying, yeah.
Well,
Got my
if you're
first
not
like
offending
one
some
star.
people, you have to offend some people to really be honest and authentic and also call in the right people.
For sure. Well, and I mean, Jesus offended people, so
Yes.
I'm in good company.
Yes, yes. And I think, for me, this is my personal take. It's like there's nothing wrong with using medication and modern medicine practices if that's what you want. Like, for example, I have a client right now. We've been working together probably close to a year. We're coming up on a year, and she's made a lot of progress. She has Hashimoto's, wasn't even sure if she was ovulating. We've got her cycles regulated, her thyroid numbers look better. Like, she feels better, and she's confident that she's ovulating now. And she was like, I don't know, I think I might want to do IUI. And I was like, that's great. And I could tell when she told me that she almost felt guilty for it. And I was like, that's great. Like you're going into IUI with a totally different mindset than someone who thinks that's their only option. Someone who went to the fertility clinic and were told, you're too old, your eggs are all trash, and the only way you're going to get pregnant is IUI or IVF. I was like, it's two totally different things. So it's like if you want to use pharmaceutical stuff, that's great if you feel called there. But I think what me and you want most for people to know most is like that's not your only option. That's not true just because the doctor said it, and your faith and your belief in what your body can do and the God that created you is going to take you so much further. And even exactly what you said about how you feel postpartum, I tell everyone the benefits of doing things naturally. I mean, there's so many, but one, it allows you to get pregnant more than once because when you do the work, you know how to take charge of your fertility as opposed to letting a procedure do it. Two, you're going to feel so much better postpartum. And three, motherhood's not going to be easy. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be everything you dreamed it would be, but that doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it like simple to take care of yourself and feel good and have energy, just the way like you're saying, this dental hygienist was surprised at like your energy and probably your vibration. And it's like, oh, I know how to take care of myself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so such good stuff. Okay, let's jump into. We have a few truth and myths for you guys today about getting pregnant in your 40s. So, number one, Susan, tell us what you think. Once you turn for once you turn 40, your chances of getting pregnant naturally are basically gone. In the words of the doctors we hear all the time, slim to none.
Yeah, I was told that, and I was rushed right into doing IUI. And it's just, I mean, that is not of the Lord. That is the devil speaking into you. And I think part of it is like, you know, a lot of mainstream medical, they're trained in one area. They're not always looking at the full picture. They're looking
Hmm.
at labs in isolation. And so I mean, that's a whole other conversation as well, that your, normal labs are based off of a really unhealthy population. So like, do
Yes.
you do you want you're just meh, or do you want to be like exceptional? And I personally want to be exceptional, but I obviously I had two babies in my 40s, so I don't think that your chances of getting pregnant naturally are slim to none, but you have to be willing to do those foundational things and understand that it may feel like you're taking a step back when you're working on these things instead of fast forwarding to the result that you want. But ultimately, and I see it over and over and over again, you're going to have like it'll shorten your time. You'll
Hmm.
have better results. I mean, even if you do decide to do something like IUI, if you have good foundations, your chances of success are going to be high, way greater. That's the thing that
Yes.
frustrates me, where it's like, well, let's just rush into IUI. And it's like, well, if you're working with crummy sperm or
Hmm.
your vitamin D levels are not where they need to be to like actually sustain life, then you're just wasting time and money.
Yeah. Do you know that? I'm sure you know this, but for anyone listening, the success rate of IUI is 11%. Is that not wild? Every time I look at those numbers, it just infuriates me. The success rate for IVF on the first round is like 29%, and IUI is 11%. And typically, your insurance will make you go through like 7 rounds of IUI before they would even let you do IVF. So that's 7 months of your wasted time on an 11% chance that this is going to work. And like you said, when you work on those foundational things that feel boring, that feel like they're not moving the needle, I can guarantee you the likelihood of success is more than 11%.
For
And that's,
sure.
and it's like, yeah, yeah, it just drives me absolutely crazy. So yes, total myth. And I always say that the exactly what you said. They're trained in one thing. They're trained in labs and they're trained in procedures. And I tell people always think about where you're shopping and what they sell. You're not going to go to Chick-fil-A and get a hamburger. That's not how it works. You're not going to go to a fertility clinic and then give you like functional medicine, holistic, hey, try this. They may tell you to lose weight, which will be very unhelpful. But they're not going to sell you anything they don't make, they don't produce. They sell procedures. So it's easy for them to look at you and say, hey, you have a slim to no chance. It's a marketing tactic, it's a sales tactic because that's what they sell. And not that it's necessarily wrong, but it's just so common and so mainstream that people think it's their only option when it's like, just shop somewhere else. Shop where you feel aligned. Shop with someone who has the same faith values as you or someone who can give you a second opinion because that's just one shopping center's opinion, essentially.
Yeah. And I did do a round of IUI because I thought that was the next best step, because my labs were normal. His
Hmm.
numbers were astronomically great. Like, surely I was the problem. We just needed to time it better. Honestly, the meds made me so, because it was a medicated also, they made me so sick that I was like, why am I trying to play God in all of this? And it was like, for me, it was just really about, here I wanted to like connect with my husband and have this child. And that was like taking all of that out of what I felt for us was going to be like this beautiful union. And I was like, why are we playing God in all this? And so that was the end of that. And then COVID shut everything down, and I ended up naturally pregnant without
Yeah.
any assistance. So it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Second truth or myth, if my, which we kind of just touched on this, but if my doctor says I need IVF, that's my only option.
Oh my gosh. So I understand that there are scenarios in which IVF is a necessity and it can be a great tool for people. The problem that I have with that is I've never met anyone who went and had IVF where they asked them about their nutrition, for
Mm-hmm.
example. And so let's say you have, an apple, and you have one egg, and you give your apple to your one egg, your child. Well, now all of a sudden you're adding all these medications in. So now you end up with 12, and you're having to cut that apple into twelfths. So would you want to give your child a twelfth of nutrition? Probably not. But that is an issue that is rarely addressed when it comes to IVF. So whether it's nutrition, hydration, like any of that, vitamin D, all of those foundational things that we talk about, like you want to give your best if you're going all in and spending, 30, 40, $50,000, because again, the success rate is not that great. So if you are wanting to do IVF, I would still say that all of the things that Tori and I talk about, like foundationally, is going to make your chances that much better. And so even if you do go that route, you should really focus, but it's not your only option.
Yes, I would say it's an option, not your only option. And to me, it's what I would call a last ditch effort option. It's like the Hail Mary if you've addressed all these other things. And also your success rate, like you mentioned, is going to be much more likely if you address the foundational things too. And me and Susan have said the word foundational a lot. So if you're someone that's kind of new and just jumping into this kind of more holistic approach, when we talk about foundations, we're talking about things like your stress management, your sleep, your nutrition. Just, I love that apple metaphor. I've never even thought of it that way, but that was a really good picture of what's going on. And but we're talking about foundational things that way, things that you have control over and that are going to make you feel better. And they feel so simple. A lot of times with my clients, after we get off our first call, one of the like pieces of homework I give people if they have dysregulated sleep patterns, I was like, go to bed 1 hour earlier. That's it. That's your only homework until we meet again. Go to bed consistently 1 hour earlier. And that feels so small and so insignificant, but it's also giving our body time to reset cortisol levels, to heal, to really calm the nervous system, which is going to influence your egg quality anyways. And that's what the number three truth or myth that we're going to talk about is egg quality. And it's after 40, egg quality is the biggest problem, and there's nothing I can do about it because they love to tell you that after 40 or even 35 that all your eggs are bad and you don't have any left.
Yeah. That, that the whole like AMH thing, that number was actually designed specifically for IVF patients to determine whether or not they would be able to retrieve eggs. It literally has zero bearing on natural conception. So when you go into the doctor and they say, "Oh, your AMH is low," and forget about it. Okay, so it has no bearing on natural conception, but you're just telling me that my chances of doing IVF are even lower than, if all the stars were in alignment. And so egg quality is one of those things that more recently research has shown that you can actually change that by changing lifestyle habits, which were never really considered so much before. But even the fertility myth of like after 35, everything falls off, where that came from. There was a study done of women during like whatever war was going on in the 1900s in France. And the study was based off of their fertility numbers way back in the early 1900s. And it was women whose husbands were off at war. So the whole idea that your fertility falls off a cliff after 35 is based off of over 100 years ago and women whose husbands weren't even around to knock them up. So,
Yeah,
like,
and women that are living in war. So it's like that's all we talk about nervous system regulation all the time. Talk about dysregulation if you're living in a war where your husband's at home and you don't know if he's coming home. I did not know that.
yeah. So, egg quality isn't your biggest problem,
Yeah.
really. I think, honestly, it's more about all of the fear that is surrounding that. So, a body that is scared and your nervous system, your stress levels are high. Even if you say like, "Oh, I'm not stressed," every person that's ever told me that, when I look at their labs, their body is telling me something
Hmm.
different. And so if your body is prioritizing survival just to get through the day, it's not going to be like, "Yes, come here. I'm ready to bring on another life form that's going to suck everything out of me." It's just not. And so I think we really have to understand that we have to quiet the fear. We have to quiet whatever the devil is trying to put, like, "Oh, is this really God's plan for you? Oh, it'll never happen." That is from the devil. That is not
Hmm.
of the Lord. And so egg quality is not the biggest problem. I think fear and stress and lack of sleep probably is a bigger
Yes.
problem.
Yes, I agree. I think belief is, and I actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, but in all my research and all this, there's not actually a test that tells you anything about your egg quality. So these doctors that are telling you your eggs are bad don't have any proof. There's not a test that can tell you if your eggs are bad. And so I'm like, I tell people all the time, they're like, what should I ask the doctor? I said, when you go, if you're going to the fertility clinic or your OB or wherever you're going, just act like a 5-year-old child would and ask why or how come to everything they say. If they say all your eggs are bad, say how come? How do you know? Like just ask more questions because then you'll realize they're just spitting off like random statistics that really now I know are based off things like surveys done in the 1900s off women that were whose husbands were off at war. You know, it's like where is this information coming from? Even ask them that. I had a call with a potential client yesterday, and she said that the doctor she spoke to typed some stuff in the computer, turned the computer around, showed it to her, and said like you have a 4% chance of getting pregnant. I'm like, okay, now ask them where is that 4% based on? Give me all the data because they're not going to be able to do it. You know, they're not going to be able to tell you, well, we base it off this, and we looked at this in your body and this. No, they're just pulling what information serves their marketing tactic, in my opinion. But I hear this all the time, egg quality, egg quality, egg quality, especially for the women over 40. And it kind of just like burned me up for a little bit because I'm like, all right, what's the test? I need to know the test that tells you what your egg quality is. How do they know this? And there is not a test. And then I also learned this was probably a year ago. And I mean, I've been in the fertility space for like almost 8 years now. And I didn't know this till a few years ago, but that even when women hit menopause, they still have thousands of eggs left. So when they tell you that you're running out of eggs, it's not like you have 4 eggs left. You have thousands of eggs, even when you hit menopause. So if you are still having a cycle, you're still ovulating, you still have thousands of eggs in your basket, essentially.
Mhm.
So we're taught that when we're 40, the egg quality is bad. There's no test to prove that, and that you're going to run out of eggs, which I don't even know if that's actually possible. I mean, maybe
Right.
with some certain cases or something, but I mean, very, very unlikely that you would actually run out of eggs. So we can totally debunk the egg quality thing as a myth because there's no actual test for it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
crazy.
So crazy.
Okay, and last truth or myth, and this is a faith-filled one, and one that I know me and you believe in deeply, is if it hasn't happened yet, maybe it's just not God's plan for me, which you touched on this just a second ago, but let's talk about that. Truth or myth, if it hasn't happened yet, it's just not God's plans for me.
I don't believe that because if it is in your heart to be a mother, th- it isn't like, my husband was always confused by that, like, oh, God will give you the desires of your heart. And he was always worried, like, oh, are you going to make me go to Africa? And it's like, no, whatever your heart's desire is, there's a reason and purpose for that. And again, as I mentioned, the devil's only sort of one up, if you will, is to instill that fear and make you question God's plan for you. I mean, it took us 2 years to have our little girl. And I hear it all the time in the vasectomy reversal world that, each month when you get that negative test, it is very disappointing. There's a lot of weight riding on it. I think that a lot of stress comes with that makes it more difficult. So it's an uphill battle for your body. But I can't imagine because people say, well, I think it's not in the cards for me. I just want to give up. I can't handle the emotional stress of it. And I can't imagine looking at either one of my two children that I desperately prayed for and thinking that they weren't worth it or that it wasn't God's plan.
Mm,
Because I 1000% know that they were part of God's plan. So as their mom, even in the waiting, because it
mm,
sucks so bad. To really, I think for me, when it was really about like, well, what do I need to work on about me that's going to make me the mom that my future children need was energy way better spent than living in the world like this isn't God's plan. Like I knew it was God's plan. He had shown up time and time and time and
mm,
time. And even I heard him audibly in my kitchen when I was getting ready to go on a military deployment, which meant I had to put my baby plans on hold. And he said, do you not trust me? Look at all I have done. And I was like, okay, I don't know what the plan is, but you've got this. And I just, you only get that one next step. So maybe it's, taking care of your foundational health and getting good sleep. For me, it was like unpacking a lot of childhood trauma
Mm-hmm.
that I was holding on to, a lot of fear of abandonment, which when you're bringing another life form in, you don't want that. I don't want that for my kids. And so even though the 2 year wait was long and awful, I wouldn't trade any of that work that I did in growing closer to the Lord and knowing what his plans were for me and my future children. That I just am like, when you reframe it and not allow the devil to get in your head.
Mm-hmm.
I can also tell you numerous of my clients who have come to me that after our first call, where I had belief for them and told them to knock it out, like to really focus on tuning out those doubts and fears from the devil, within a month or two, they were pregnant.
Mm-hmm. I truly believe, like you were saying that before, that, one of our myths was egg quality is the biggest problem. And you said, no, the biggest problem is really fear. And I wholeheartedly agree. I think the biggest issue is fear and the lack of belief because it is easy. You see that negative test over and over again, and it's so much easier to believe that little lie that this isn't going to happen for you and to not get your hopes up. I hear that a lot. My clients say, like, I just don't want to get my hopes up. I was like, well, hope deferred makes the heart sick. So, like, let's get our hopes up and believe that God can do it. And even if He doesn't do it this time, that He will do it. And we'll carry that belief to each consecutive month. And even this client or a call I had with a potential client yesterday, she was like, I really don't want to like go all in because I don't want to get my hopes up. And I'm not trying to get like, she basically was saying she wasn't trying to get totally emotionally invested in it. And I was just real honest with her. And I was like, well, I mean, if you want to work with me, that's not how I roll. Like that's my number one job is to instill belief in you over and over and over again. And I know you probably see this too with your clients, Susan, but a lot of times we start with the basics of your period, your sleep, your foundations, and we kind of get a plan to get that in order. And then the rest of our time together is belief building, is holding on to like these small foundational changes, but the bigger picture is having someone to hold your hand when that negative test comes back up and say, "Okay, what did we learn from this cycle? How can we move forward? Let's keep going. Like you're meant to be a mom and we're just going to keep doing this. We're not giving up." Because like you said, thinking of it as not just a pregnancy, but a human being that you're trying to bring in the world and you looking at your babies and being like, I can't imagine giving up on this. It's like you can't give up. You have to hold that belief, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't make sense, because, like you said, if it's on your heart, it's there for a reason. And I truly believe that anything that you have carried, especially since childhood, I've heard women a lot of times say, "I wanted to be a mom since I was a child." It's like you think you've carried that from childhood all the way into your 40s, and that's not the plan, that God would put that on your heart and be like, I'm going to let Susan desire to be a mom basically her whole life, but I'm not going to give that to her. Like, that doesn't even make any sense,
Mm-mm.
So it's like we have to believe that God can and will make it happen in His perfect timing. And our job is to just take action, to take faith-filled action. And like you said, sometimes all you get is that next step. I've been thinking a lot about that. Is it Psalm 119, 102 that's like his light is a lamp unto my feet. And a lamp doesn't light up the whole room or the whole space. It only lights up where you're stepping. And so that's all you can do is take one more step and one more step and one more step and believe that eventually that light is going to lead you exactly to where you need to go. So it's a total myth that if it hasn't happened yet, that it maybe it's not in God's plans for you.
That's
And
so
Susan
true.
is living proof of that.
Amen to that. And now I'm like, I just want to keep proving the devil wrong over and
Mm-hmm.
over and over again. It's, what I'm so passionate about the work that we do and just helping, even if it is sharing the belief when it's hard. I mean, that it always is good to have somebody in community that's like speaking life into you, not like the
Mm-hmm.
guys that work with my husband. So my husband is 50. And everybody always tells him, like, you're so old to be having, like, why did you start over? Like,
Yeah.
you could be living the good life. And when we're together and hanging out with our kids and traveling and doing all these things, like, we look at each other and we're like, I can't imagine missing out on this or thinking that there was something better than
Yes.
this. Like, being alone, what would we be doing with ourselves? Like,
Yes.
wasting time. Instead, we're like laughing and being active and learning these personalities of two very different children. And it's it's actually been very healing to me, um, just to be able to parent from a different space than I did when I was in my
Yes.
20s. Like I'm retired now and I homeschool, so I'm with them all the time. I never, ever in a million years ever thought that that would be in the cards for me. And even in my 20s, I was like, I could never homeschool, and now
Yes.
it's like, I think it is such a gift and so amazing. And so, yeah, if you're listening to this, I just really hope that if you take anything away, like God is the ultimate author and finisher of things, and his plans are always, always greater than we could ever ask or imagine. And I could tell you, when you only get the next step illuminated,
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, there's been many times in my life, if I knew how the story ended, I probably would have freaked out and not been able
Mm-hmm.
to even take the next step. So, um, I'm kind of going through that where we like are selling our what I consider our dream home and like downsizing and like what I don't know what the next path is, but the Lord like really placed it on our heart to be free of our house and responsibilities and just be
Yes.
open to going where he calls us. And it's like, but this is my house, my favorite house. I love
Yes.
this house. This is where I brought my babies home. And I mean, it's really taken a lot of growth just to be like, well, I don't know what the next step is, but I'm going to take it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I love that too. I didn't even really think about it that way of, how often women feel like they're racing the clock, right? Like they really want to get pregnant. They're 40 something and feel like they're racing the clock and trying not to get their hopes up. And at the same time, the world is coming in and saying you're too old to be a mom. Like it's time to retire. It's time to chill out. You've got other things you can do now. I haven't even thought about like those colliding of what you want and trying to keep your hopes up and how hard it is while the world tells you you're too old. Well, or like it's time to move into a different phase of life when you are still desperately clinging to a phase you haven't experienced yet, and how much beauty there is in that. Like, what else would we be doing? What else would we be doing right now? Because even my children, I have a wonderful, wonderful mother-in-law, and my kids go and spend the night at her house every Friday night. So me and my husband have date night every Friday night, and there are some nights where we're like, "Ugh, what do you want to do? I don't even like." Sometimes we go do something fun, we go play golf, and then there's sometimes it's like. I'm like, well, I kind of just wish our kids were here,
I
like
know.
we were just hanging out with them. It's like you're not missing out on anything by being an older mother. Like you're just experiencing it just the right time.
Exactly. Well, and I'll tell you, because people always say, oh, is it harder this time? And I said, no, like I'm in a different space, mentally, physically, spiritually, all the things. Like I almost feel bad that my older kids didn't get this
Yes.
version of me that's like healthy and prioritizes, sleep and all the things. And so my younger kids have a wildly different
Mm-hmm.
mom. Fortunately, my older kids still like hanging out with me. And so they get to see me in that way now. But
Yes.
as adults, as adults who probably will have kids of their own. And although my daughter said, I'm not even thinking about that till I'm 30. And I'm like, good.
Yeah.
Because all of her friends are her age are like in this rush, like I gotta get married and I gotta have,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think maybe even just for her to see how different things are when you are older,
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, and like take your time and the right person. I had somebody one time message me and say that like they were really trying to honor God and waiting for the right man, not just getting married because they felt like they had to. And she was like, so now I'm 43 and I have the perfect man, but now I can't get pregnant. I'm like, and she was like, and she kind of went down that road of like, so maybe it's just not God's plan for me. And I'm like, you think he made you like, why would God make you wait? And like, why would you be so obedient to wait for the right man? Like, which is something most people don't do. They just go and get pregnant. I mean, go ahead and get married to whoever they're dating in their early 20s to do the normal thing, to get married, get pregnant, and all the things. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way you don't get pregnant. There's no way that you have the perfect man and then this dream that's been on your heart forever doesn't get fulfilled. It's just like, it's not even possible in my eyes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so true. Like we rush through life and we think that if we don't do it on the same timeline as everybody else, then maybe it just wasn't supposed to happen. But your timeline is unique. My timeline is unique. The women listening to this, your timeline is unique and it doesn't need to be rushed and you're not behind. So, yeah, I love that perspective. It's beautiful.
So, so awesome. What a great conversation to just like change the narrative. Like, let's all
Yes.
collectively
Yes.
cheer each other on instead of like, oh, wow, you don't look really exhausted like all
Yeah.
the other old moms I ever see. And sometimes I wonder because when I'm with she'll be 20 in May. And so when I'm with her and then my younger kids, I think people are always trying to like sort it out. A lot of times they think my daughter is my sister, but like, oh, is that your grandma? Like, it is a weird space, like even because people who have kids at the park, they're a lot younger than me. And so I just take it as like I get to mentor them because people always say,
Hmm.
oh, terrible twos. And I'm like, just wait till they're driving. Like,
Yeah.
you think that your problems will go away as they get older, but they just get more complicated because now
Hmm.
they have their own mind and then they have their own car and you
Yes.
want to shield them from all the things that they're going to do. I mean, every season is different and beautiful. And I just like always encourage people not to like rush.
Hmm.
Don't, and same with getting pregnant. Like, don't rush through this season without doing whatever it is God's like whatever foundation He's laying. Maybe it's, trauma. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your relationship. Like, really
Hmm.
having a solid marriage and good communication. Because when kids come along and you're two ships passing in the night, you need that to fall back on.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, when the kids grow up, all of a sudden you realize, I don't know that I really like you because
Yeah.
I've been so tuned into the kids. So I think all of that stuff, instead of asking why isn't it happening and focusing on what can I be doing to build the best foundation for my future kids, it changes your
Hmm.
perspective. It changes kind of like I think about, God winks or whatever you focus on is what you see. So you go to buy a new car and then that car is everywhere.
Hmm.
So whatever you're focusing on, so if it's always all the negative stuff, it's not happening, then yeah, that's all you'll see. But instead, I started focusing on gratitude and what I needed to work on with myself. And while it was not the most fun of seasons, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Mm. Absolutely. I always said that God's not making you wait, He's preparing you. So don't ignore the things you're supposed to be working on right now versus, like it's almost, I almost tell people, go ahead and start making your postpartum plan. You're going to get pregnant. It's going to happen. Believe it, say it, speak it, and start living like it. So go ahead and start thinking about your postpartum plan because I'm also deeply passionate about like working from home and getting to be a stay-at-home mom and like you were talking about homeschooling and stuff. It's like a deep, deep passion of mine, which my kids go to public school, but it's deeply important to me to take them to school, to pick them up, all the things. And so I'm always like kind of biasly being like, all right, what do you want to do once this baby gets here? Are you going to continue to work this job that's sucking the life out of you? Because if you're not, let's go ahead and quit. Like, go ahead and start living like it's already happened. And I feel like half the time I'm talking about fertility stuff, and half the time I'm like, you should quit your job. But I do want people to live like they're preparing for this thing they're asking God for. Like, go ahead and prepare this space for the blessing you're asking for. Don't live like it's not going to happen because then like you said, what you focus on is what happens. So believe that God can do it and start living like he's already going to do it. If you're going to quit your job when the baby comes, quit your job now. Go ahead and start budgeting and preparing because that may be the thing that helps you get pregnant. I had a client that was 40, I'm almost positive she was 47. I'd have to go back and look, but past 45. And her job was the most absurd thing I'd ever heard. Like she was traveling from Alaska to Canada. She was on call 24/7, like literally 24/7, drinking 5 cups of coffee a day just to keep up, these kinds of things. And we talked for a while and I was like, I know you have like your budget and your bills and things you need to do, but I said, I deeply feel like you need to quit your job or to change positions or something. Like the life you're living is not sustainable. And she went on to, her husband was 50 and they're both very active, like mountain bikers, runners, all the things. And they kind of collectively decided to, he still works, but she kind of collectively decided to retire. She was like, you know what? I can retire. And even almost said, I don't even know if I want to get pregnant anymore. Like maybe we just want to travel because she had older children too. And then she ended up getting pregnant. And I was like, how interesting that when you quit that soul-sucking job and regulated your nervous system and had time to eat real food and get real sleep that you got pregnant. How interesting. So the waiting does suck, but if you look at it more like preparation and listening and leaning into that. Like, how can I prepare for this blessing I'm asking for and believing that God can give me? Start doing that now. And even like you said, sometimes, a lot of times I see it in marriages. It's like there's a disconnection here. You guys are not on the same page, whether it be baby or something else. So let's fix this because, like you said, once that baby gets here, you got to be a strong team because the newborn stage is, again, beautiful. I don't ever like to make it sound like, oh gosh, it's so hard because it is the most beautiful thing. And if I could go back to the newborn stage, I would do it all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
But it is hard because you're not getting sleep. You're not eating like you would. You're not working a normal schedule. So it's like prepare now so for the blessing you're asking for. Be open-handed for what God wants to do in this waiting season because it is possible for you to get pregnant in your 40s and you're not behind.
Amen to that.
Yes. So tell everyone, Susan, I think like we have like I feel pumped up. I'm like sweating. I'm so pumped up talking about But if we have women that are listening and they want to work with you, they're in their 40s, they need someone to hold this belief for them and give them an action plan to get pregnant, where can they find you?
So the best place is probably my website, susangladstein.com. You can find all the things there. Even if it's just getting away for a retreat in Costa Rica, I do those
Yes,
every
I
year to
saw
really
that.
like spoil women. I think sometimes when we're caught up in the busyness of life, that it's really hard to hear clearly from the Lord. And so this is really just an opportunity to have that record scratch, get away, get in nature, have the sunlight on your eyes, take a nap if you want to, have somebody else cook for you. Because I always, every time I go, I always hear like what the Lord's next plan for me is. And sometimes it's just like to take care of myself, to slow down. I mean, last year it was, or year before last, it was to quit my job and
Hmm.
like do this coaching thing full time, which was very scary after spending so much time always working for someone else in the government. So on Instagram, I'm at susangladstein.co. And of course, my podcast, Faith Over Pharma.
Great, absolutely. And guys, I am Tori Black. If we have not met, you can find me on fruitfulfertilityco.com, Fruitful Fertility Co. podcast, or Fruitful Fertility Co. on Instagram. But thank you guys so much for being here. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with me today. If this episode touched your heart or taught you something, I'd be honored if you share it with a friend who could use the information too. And if you want to be the real MVP, then would you also take 30 seconds to tap those 5 stars at the bottom and leave a written review telling me what you're loving? It lights me up to know this podcast is really helping you. Don't forget, you're super cute and super fertile, so meet me back here next week and let's keep chatting and learning together.